Let's not go crazy over this, okay? Bury those dead cats out back later.
Yeah. Smell will be gone in no time.
Yeah, okay. And what about the voodoo they did down there? Huh?
No. Voodoo is more about dolls, personal artifacts. This
Eric.
is something different.
That's enough. You shouldn't have touched anything from that basement.
Okay, let's go. Let's go.
Hello and welcome. Welcome and hello. This is Wait, You Haven't Seen? It's a show where we talk about movies, and specifically, we talk about a movie at least one of us has never seen before. I'm your host, Travis, aka TV's Travis. This is episode number 240, and joining me, as we have all October, it's the cast of the GORE podcast, starting with the Wicked Kitten, always getting into mischief, Monica.
Hi, I'm Wicked, and I just ripped my hand off at the wrist.
That sounds...
I blame you,
painful.
Jeep.
Also with us is the endearing and the ethereal Faye.
Hi.
And the dread you've been feeling since he got to New Jersey, Dreadly.
Ooh. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you.
If you haven't figured it out by now or by any of the titles of this stream, the movie we watched this week was 2013's Evil Dead remake / reimagining / sequel thing. We're going to talk about that. But first, I want to go around and find out everybody's history with that. I'm going to start, Dread, with you. When did you first see this?
Well, the moment it became available to be seen, not in the cinema, because I don't go there often. But yeah, pretty much when it came out.
Okay. Monica, how about you?
I believe I watched it. If not, no, it probably wasn't in the cinema, but I think like as soon as it was available. However, I was watching movies back then, cable, satellite, Alien beamed it into my brain directly.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm not sure if I went to the movies, so I can't claim that, but it was very early on.
Okay, so like 2013, 2014, you both had seen this already. Faye, how about you?
In the theaters when it first came out.
Doesn't surprise
Come on,
me.
I've loved Evil Dead.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go.
Yeah, and I know we've covered the Evil Dead movies on GORE. We've talked about it before. We're all fans of the franchise. I had not seen this. It was released in 2013, and that was sort of like it was a period of time where I wasn't able to get to movies very often because I just didn't have the funds to go out to the theater, and I was busy with other stuff, and it just didn't work out. And then it just sort of slid under my radar, and it got that sort of out of sight, out of mind. Like, I'm going to watch that. I want to see it, but I also had this. I love the original trilogy of Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness so much that I needed to be in the right mindset to watch this when it came out, because I was not fully convinced yet that a remake was a good idea. And so I just sort of, and then I'd forget about it. I wouldn't see it. It wouldn't be available to stream or rent or whatever for a while. And so I just kept waiting. And finally it came up for this, and I'm like, no, that's perfect. I need to see this. When we talked about it on GORE, and I mentioned that I hadn't seen this remake yet, and Evil Dead Rise wasn't out when we did our ranking.
It came out just as we did it. Like
maybe it was like at the time.
Yeah.
But either way, like I mentioned then that I hadn't seen this, and you all were like, how have you not? You need to see it. You need to properly rank the movies with that and all that kind of stuff. So
Wait, you haven't seen?
yeah. So we're getting around to it now. It sounds like if you all saw it early on and you're willing to watch it again, you probably enjoyed it or liked it as a movie. I remember it ranked fairly high for everybody overall, but I could be misremembering because I'm getting a lot of shaking of heads from Monica here.
I'm sorry, I didn't like this movie. when I first saw it, and I think my contrition, is that a word that I can use for this, was that I was going to watch it again and give it a second chance.
Okay.
That was
I don't know why I remember you liking it more for some reason. Not more than the original movies necessarily, but that you appreciated it as a remake. I guess I don't know why I'm remembering it that way, but I do so many conversations about movies. They're all blending together now. So who knows?
It was another blonde.
Yeah, that must be what it was. There was another blonde named Monica that I talk about movies with all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate this as a remake. I think they did some interesting stuff here. I think there's parts of it that I would have maybe made different decisions with. But I want to start then with you, Monica. What was it about this when you saw it that first time that you didn't like, that didn't work for you?
You know, I guess it just never felt right. I'm not going to say that it's not like well shot, well acted, well written, whatever, because I'm not like that's not really my problem with it. I guess it's more like just how it felt to me, and there's parts of it that just really annoy me, like the characters, and they kept one of the things in the first movie that really bothers me and stops me from rewatching that a lot, and that is just,
It's
but
not
I do
bad in this one.
what it's
Not as bad in this one.
I guess, but it's different. It's like in a different way.
It's
and
different, and I'd argue in some ways it felt worse, but we'll get to that.
Oh God. I was
get
thinking
there.
that I didn't want to say it. Because like at least watching back, because I keep rewatching the first one, just like I'm desensitizing myself at this point. But like it's starting it, which makes it worse that it gets a little comical because it is more ridiculous the more that I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But this was just really like I can't put that into quantifiable words. I appreciate a lot of stuff about this movie. I really do. I will never say it's a bad movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Nightmare on Elm Street remake. It's just
They made a remake?
no, it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, this one
apparently
doesn't
Bill's
have
act likes
a
it, by the way.
lot of the comedy. They kind of went more straight face with this one than having
As much
comedic aspects.
it was kind of the thing at the time, right? They were remaking all the things, and they had to make it more gory, seriously, more real. Well, real, you know what I mean?
Like if it
Like,
was silly,
no
they
comedy.
made it serious. If it was serious, they made it silly because that's one of those things that can kind of help change what the remake does, right?
Sure. I will say, though, that this movie is far more in line with what the original The Evil Dead was going for than what the sequels did. That first movie was not meant as a comedy really at all. And any moments of comedy from it, any camp that was from the fact that they were making it for no money and they had very little experience. So they were just... It was actors without a whole lot of experience and makeup effects where they're doing them on the spot and just all that kind of stuff. So they really wanted to kind of recapture the feel of that first movie in terms of we're making an actual horror movie in this. And I would, if Sam Raimi wasn't involved in this at all, then it would be a lot harder of a sell for me. But given that he and Bruce Campbell and Bob Tappert all came on to produce this. So they at least had, not necessarily any kind of final say, but they had some say in sort of the direction that it was going to go. And they brought on Fede Alvarez. And, they kind of gave it their seal of approval in a way. It's not the first movie for me. There's something about that ultra low budget thing where they just were like, we're going to make a movie because we want to make this movie and we have no money to do it. Oh, well, who cares? We're just going to do it. That is really endearing in it. And it's
the heart.
Yeah, there is a heart that's there. Now, I will say that for what this movie wanted to be, Evil Dead 2013, it executes that extremely well. I do think that the way it's shot, the fact that they shot everything in chronological order for most of the shooting, in part because they used so damn much blood on this, it was a lot easier to do that than wash the set off to shoot things later.
Makes sense.
But there were just things that they did with this that I really appreciated, that they tried to make a little bit different, but also bring back some of the same ideas and homages to the original, but update it for a different audience, which I did like. I also think it was incredibly smart of them because it's sort of a remake, but it's also sort of a sequel. I think Raimi and Alvarez have both said it takes place in the same world, the same universe, which sort of doesn't make any sense at all, why or how that would work, because in the story of this, the cabin is like a family cabin that these people have been to in the past, and yet it's supposed to be the same cabin that Ash was at 30 years prior. And it's like, okay, so when did it become a family thing? Like, we don't get that backstory at all, and there was nobody knew anything about what had happened here. Okay, kind of doesn't make sense. But at the same time, it was really smart of them not to try and bring back any of the same characters. So they didn't want to have an Ash Williams. They didn't even... And that was part of Bruce Campbell's thing. He didn't want originally to have a remake done because he didn't want to have anyone else do that character. And then when they're like, no, we're not doing that, he goes, oh, well, yeah, okay, we can do that. Sure.
That was the smartest thing they did.
It was absolutely the smartest thing they did, because they took the things that they could update and make better and do that. Because there's no way you're going to make an Ash character better or more recognizable than what Bruce Campbell has done. It will never live up to that comparison in some people's minds, and it's a no-win situation. So just don't even try it. And they didn't, to their credit. But I thought it was... I also liked the change in story as far as it's not just 5 random 20-somethings going into the woods because reasons. Like, there was a purpose for them to be out in the middle of nowhere, with the whole drug addiction angle, and I liked that. That was a nice touch to things because it adds a different layer and a different level to what's going on, and a reason for them not to want to leave either. Because what's one of the tropes of these types of movies is, why doesn't anybody just leave? And
until it's too late.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
The one chick does try to leave and just... God.
Well,
that poor car.
They even in the original movie, they try to leave, but everything's washed out, but they wait too long before they get to that point. And it's just because they're just out at this cabin in the woods. I like the idea of, no, we're not going to, we have a reason to be here, and then we have a reason to stay here, right? Because none of them are going to believe. It's also the whole thing of like not believing the first person that's dealing with the paranormal thing and getting possessed. Normally it's just, oh, you're crazy, and like, no, your friend is acting completely insane. Maybe you ought to pay attention to that. Instead, it's no, your friend is actually acting completely insane because she's detoxing from heroin. So obviously she's going to be a little crazy. Yeah. And so it's a nice narrative reason for that too. I liked that. I do agree the characters overall. Well, of the 5 of them, there's one that's not really even a character, Natalie, unfortunately. She's like just there. They give her no story. She barely has any lines. I mean,
yeah,
which was kind of unfortunate because I think that that having her there was supposed to be a scene between her and Mia that got cut. I haven't seen, or if it was ever put in the director's cut, because I guess there is one. But
she was quite harmless or armless. I don't know.
Both, either and or both.
She was there to give the classic arm cut off.
Well, and so, okay. First thing I got to say, well, not first thing, obviously, but one of the things I got to say about this movie boy, is it for the gore hounds. Like, it is visually a brutal movie, and if you cannot stand literal buckets of blood and gore, don't watch it. Don't even think about watching it. Like, the first movie, I remember us all talking about it. It had a lot of that in it, but because of the limitations of what they had available to them, it isn't as visceral.
And we're used to blood by this point as horror fans, but viscera and actual gore and stuff, like, even to this day, like, I've seen most of the Saw movies and Hostel and stuff, and this is up there with that.
It is. Now, I think one difference here is that it has it's incredibly gratuitous, but yet because of the nature of it being these weird possessions and this just evil presence, it fits narratively what they're going for. But man, is there a lot of it in this, and it's not shy to show you all of it.
No, the pulling your own arm out from underneath the Jeep that fell on top of it.
Yeah.
Which I'm confused. That Jeep's not that heavy.
No.
Maybe her wrist is that perforated or something. I don't know. Like, that was just like, are you kidding me? I've had harder time breaking apart a pizza box. She just like, whoop, there's my hand.
Yeah, that one. I mean, the first arm cut off with the electric knife, which, so in my notes as I'm watching the movie, I'm taking notes, and I had
that blade's not that strong.
No.
So I had.
Did you have no?
Okay, so first of all, we've got. Let's talk about the open for this, because I kind of like that sort of tone setting for the cold open.
Oh yeah,
I do love the opening. Yes.
Oh yeah, the way she
That's one
says
part
what she says to him, but in her own voice.
Mm-hmm.
The way
Just
she
natural.
delivers that line was just. mwah.
And it's that
They could have
classic-
done the demon voice at that point, but they remain like the innocent voice, and that just makes it.
It makes it a lot more impactful, is what it did, because as an audience, you're sort of trained these cold opens in a lot of slasher, horror, crazy movies like this. It's the people that captured her that are the problem. They're the ones that are the evil ones. And even though I kind of already figured out, like, no, she's probably going to be a Deadite, because I've seen enough Evil Dead to sort of know where it's going, I still really like the execution of that. And you're right. Leaving it in her voice made it so much more effective when she says that the first time. I was like, okay. As I had like, well, it's quite the opening.
And
Dead
of course, the way
Cats.
they do the Evil Dead thing is always nice.
Mhm.
Yeah, in the beginning
bam!
and at the end, just a.
Yep.
Jesus.
Oh yeah.
Movies. Can you like not scare me with your title cards? Thank you. My
Yeah.
God.
Well, the dead cats were a bit much. I'm not sure what purpose they served other than to be really disturbing, but it worked. So there's that. So after that cold open, then the approach shots, those high angled aerial shots of the forest and the Jeep and everything, those are gorgeous. I really liked those.
Yeah.
Because again, just like how the first Evil Dead in 81 opened up with them driving for a good bit of the beginning of it. Always more than I remember it being every time I watch it. But you had to establish them being out in the middle, like way out there. And so this did that quicker by showing those wide shots of just nothing but trees for miles and miles and miles. And I really
And it
liked
started
that.
out upside down.
It did, which
I love
Which
that.
is-
That shot is delicious.
It reminds me of like there's a lot of movies that do it now, but Smile was probably the most recent one that I've seen that did the whole upside down, trying to make you look at stuff. The same thing with the Candyman that came out, the new one.
Yep. Yeah.
I like it.
I also had a note that it was a lot more practical to drive a Jeep out into the middle of the woods than an Oldsmobile Delta 88. It's a better vehicle for that environment. But then we see a Delta 88, although it's not the Oldsmobile Delta 88. It's not the 73 Sam Raimi's car, because he was busy making Oz the Great and Powerful, and he had the car on that set. So they couldn't use it. So they got a 74 instead. But I liked that. That was a nice nod. Again, sort of gives it that, like, it's a remake, but it's also a sequel feel because it could actually be Ash's car or it could just be a car that's at this place. I'm good with either one.
It happens to be very similar.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna go.
I'll talk about that a little bit later. What I feel as far as remake versus whatever. But I did love seeing the car, and I had down notes like it was cool to have the drug addiction part of things because again, it gives us a reason to be out here, and they didn't all have to arrive at once. So starting up our tension. Now, the dialogue in this at times can feel a little bit stilted, but I think part of that is because it was written by 2 non-English speakers. Because Fede Alvarez and his co-writer, Rodo, not going to try it. They're from Uruguay, and they don't speak English much, if at all. So they wrote the script, and I guess Diablo Cody is supposedly uncredited as having punched the script up. But I think that plays into some of the dialogue feeling a little stilted. I think just a translation thing more than anything else. But it works for this movie because, again, if you go back to that first Evil Dead, that's got some bad dialogue in it too, and some very stiff delivery and all that kind of stuff. So it's not that far off, really. And I do like having a tie to the location as well. Like, not only are there a reason for them to be out there with her detoxing, but it's the family cabin. Although it's the creepiest damn family cabin I have ever seen. Like,
I never freaking
One
go
that's in
there.
disarray.
Yeah. You don't want to know
One
what
that
the
hasn't
parents
been
did
at
in
for a
there.
while.
yeah. Yeah.
I do want to say another thing that probably like subconsciously bothers me is that the women like die earliest and the worst, in my opinion. I feel like they get it the worst.
Oh, they do, for sure. Although,
So
man,
unfair.
Eric goes through the ringer a little bit.
He deserves it though.
We're gonna get
Doesn't
to
he?
it. We're gonna get to him and whether or not
Doesn't
he
he?
does. Because I have some thoughts on Eric. But
Okay.
I liked having a tie to the location too. I wish they would have. It's only an hour and a half long, and it's an Evil Dead movie, so we're not here for like huge character growth and arcs. I understand that. It's let's get to the Deadites and start killing kids. But I do wish that they had made more of a thing out of the fact that like this was a family cabin that people had done something inside of, because they could have that could have been like a plot point that what was going on here, and or say something like, because they've been there within 10 years of the events happening in this movie, because the photos that were up didn't look that old.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of wish they could have played a little bit more with that and sort of a familiarity maybe with the woods or something, because it just adds a layer. It adds depth to everything. One thing I did not. Oh, and I had I had Chekhov's nail gun, because we see somebody using a nail gun. I'm like, well, that's getting used later. Then right after that, when they uncover the trapdoor and they open it up, and the first time they step on the stair, and he's like, be careful, the stair's rotten. I'm like, Chekhov's rotten stairs. All right, somebody's going to step through one of those. That's great. Mm-hmm. And then, like, the next scene, we see the girl using the electric knife, cutting the ham. And I'm like, well, there's Chekhov's electric knife. All of these things are going to come into play in horrible, horrible ways.
I can't wait until you watch Evil Dead Rise, because there's that in that movie, like right as you're watching in the beginning. You're just like, 1, 2.
Well, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And
I did the same thing in that movie.
And that was the thing. As I'm watching this, I'm like, okay, these are all these horrible things that are going to happen. There was a lot of time spent in this movie of people pulling sharp objects out of their bodies.
Yeah.
And
Especially Eric.
But so they go through the detox thing, and now, here's Mia. She's freaking out because of the lack of heroin, but also she smells something in the house. that's dead. She can smell what's going on downstairs. She's more affected by it than anyone
Your
else.
senses are just heightened.
And I liked how, like, Natalie, I think one of the first things she says is like, but there's no smell. Well, if she's smelling it that bad, there's got to be something. Otherwise, all of you are nose blind. Because I don't know if you've ever been
the dog found
if you've ever been around the smell of
Well,
death.
the dog took its time. Sorry.
By the way, Grandpa as the name of the dog. Naming the dog Grandpa is an underrated name for a dog. I'm just going to say. That was great. I thought that was awesome.
We have a bone to pick with you, Travis.
Also, the name should have been Grandpa.
Well, we don't know
Oh, yes!
how. We don't know how it was spelled.
It's written in the thing.
Yeah, whatever.
Technically, in subtitles. But Dreadly, did you want to say something to Travis about?
Yeah, I've noticed a theme here. The last time, like the last couple of movies you've watched together, are not good for dogs.
I don't
or
know.
kids or dogs. But
I did not know about the dog in this. Okay, you can't blame that on me.
I had kind of forgotten again, but then I saw the dog when they arrived. And I was,
block it out.
oh no,
I don't want to remember.
no.
I don't. It's like anything. It's filmmaking shorthand to make you hate people, right? Have them murder a dog, or threaten a dog, or do something to a dog, and immediately I hate you. So, it worked here. What was interesting about that was when they had the dog at the beginning, and then he just sort of disappears for a while. And we find out why. And I was super sad at that point, and I had to pause for a minute and go give Bella a hug, as she was snoring behind me, because I'm like, no. Which led right into a scene that was pretty rough with the shower and turning the water heater up, which again, logically doesn't make a whole lot of sense unless there's supernatural involvement, because that water heater shouldn't have been able to get that hot. Not hot enough to cause blistering. But before any of that happened, we had Eric. David's the brother. He's an idiot.
They're all idiots.
I mean, yes,
they're all idiots.
They are all idiots for the most part. But he's just sort of like there and kind of an idiot. And Eric, though, being the high school teacher and finds the book, because they bring up from the basement when they find the room that. I mean, they go into the basement and they find a room in the back of the basement that's filled with a bunch of hanging dead cats, a shotgun, and something wrapped in a plastic garbage bag and barbed wire.
Yeah.
And then they bring
all
that
that
stuff
voodoo
upstairs.
crap.
Yeah. And so they bring it upstairs. But
of course,
Eric can't sate his curiosity, so he has to cut the barbed wire away, open it up to find the book. Now, I've seen
that
reviews.
Says, "Don't read." And what does he do?
Yeah. And I've seen reviews, people complaining that the book didn't have a face on the cover of it, right? It just has like patches of human skin. I kind of like the design of this. It's always different in every movie anyway. But I liked the look.
it was
gets
bound
bigger.
in human flesh. It never
was.
said a human face.
Exactly. So I did like that. But yeah, he opens up the book and immediately it's got written in bright red, "Do not read from this book. Leave it alone. Close it up. Don't do it." And he just keeps going. And part of it is, wow, you're an idiot. Why are you doing that? And the other part of it is, well, he's also an academic. And so like that academic curiosity might just be too much for him to really hold back.
But
Bone.
an academic should probably have learned by now to just read in silence instead of just blurting out everything he sees for no
Gotta
reason.
read it out loud.
I mean, you say that, and we say that as people who have seen horror films, but what reason would he have to think that anything he says out loud would unleash evil? Except for what it says in the
He's
book.
alone. He's alone. I don't talk to myself when I'm reading. Oh, I do, but not the book.
I'm sorry. I'm never gonna take Eric's side, okay?
No.
I'm not saying
never
what he
gonna
did
take
was
his side.
smart. Okay, we need people doing stupid shit in horror movies in order for the horror movie plot to continue forward. That's just the horror movie formula.
Someone does. Stupid shit.
But I can find an understandable reason for him to continue reading the book out of an academic curiosity. It's not smart by any stretch, and certainly I wouldn't do it in the cabin in the middle of the woods.
And having to scribble in order to read it because it's imprinted somehow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He also nailed those words, like pronounced them right away.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, imagine
good on him for
that.
And look, Eric pays for his stupidity, quite literally in like a scene later.
Not enough.
And when Olivia's a registered nurse, and that's another nice thing they added in this, where she gives them yet another reason to delay leaving, right? Because when stuff starts to happen, she's like, I'm given the same care you're going to get at a hospital, so I can take care of her fine. So I kind of like that. But her scene where she goes into the bathroom. Okay, so they're all standing out there. This is I'm skipping the tree scene for now. I'd like to, because Eric read from the book. Mia runs through the forest and gets attacked by another version of her, kind of. Is it supposed to be look like her?
No, it was the girl from the beginning.
Yeah, I think it was the girl from the beginning.
It
is confusing.
I thought it was supposed to be her doppelganger.
Yeah, I thought it was
confusing.
supposed to look like her, but either way.
It was covered in blood, so you can't really tell.
Yeah,
it was a woman.
it's true. It's just a woman with girl with dark hair and contact lenses, covered in blood.
We're skipping that one scene. I just want to point out one thing: is the camera work in that. What they do with the background zooming thingy.
Oh,
that was so interesting.
It was so well shot. All right. So the original Evil Dead has the scene where Cheryl gets attacked by the forest and gets violated by the forest. And it's terrible. It's awful. And even Sam Raimi has said over the years, I probably shouldn't have put that in there. Like, that might have been the thing. If I was going to cut something, I'd have cut that.
And yet here we are, 2013.
Yeah. Now, what I read, and I don't know, I can't say for certain that this is absolutely true, but I read that was not originally in this script, and that someone went to the director and told him he should put that back in or he should add that in because it's the Evil Dead movie. My guess is, of the three producers of this film, being Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell, and Bob Tappert, I have a guess as to which one of the three of them would have been likely to say that, and it's not Sam Raimi or Bruce Campbell. So
yeah,
there's that. I think that version in this movie is worse than the one in Raimi's film back in '81, and I think it's worse because, for one, it lasts longer, and it, because of the nature of it's shot more interestingly. To your point, Dredd, like, it looked very interesting the way they were playing with depth of field and all that kind of stuff. And they switched it up so it wasn't just the trees, the vines and the brambles and everything were holding her back, or like restraining her arms and her legs, but it was then this demonic entity thing pukes out a viney, brambly something that does the bad stuff. I was like, oh, do we need? The whole time I'm just thinking, like, I don't want this. I didn't like that at all. So
yeah, they didn't have to hold on it for so long.
No, it goes much, much longer. And I was like, okay, all right, can we cut away now? Let's cut away. Okay.
It's really hard to watch. Like, and I'm a woman that likes horror movies, and there are just so many movies that kill us in really ridiculously horrible ways. And it's just, I mean, I guess you just die technically, but yeah.
And like, I understand that the point of that is to be uncomfortable, but you could make an uncomfortable scene without that. Is would be fine. Like, when
Yeah,
she
you could just go through the mouth, for example, as they've done in other movies. Like
Yeah,
evil.
I'll give you an example.
Okay, give
Here's
me the
a quick
example, and
little
then
example.
yeah, go for it.
So there is a scene in Sleepaway Camp where technically I think a girl dies because of a curling iron in a not great place. But they don't show you anything. It's all done in shadows, and you can pretend you don't know whatever. And that, it gives the illusion of it, but it doesn't actually show anything. And so that is a way of doing it without being so,
Yeah.
obvious.
Now, I will say that when the scene started up, I'm like, oh, it's this scene? Oh, boy. And then when it showed the demon and it puking up like the weird, viney, brambly snake thing, my thought was maybe they will have it do like what Dredd said, and it enters through the mouth. Like it crawls up and does that, and I would have been okay with that for some reason. Obviously still grotesque and horrific, but like somehow less so. So I was kind of hoping they were going that way until it started crawling up her leg, and I'm like, no, all right. Well, anyway, so there's
Even
that.
like when we watched, sorry.
No, go ahead. When we
watched the Alien movie where the alien impregnated the lady, the alien went in through the mouth, which was really weird.
Extra,
but
right?
Extra, yes.
Yeah.
I was like, I appreciated that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So now we've got Mia is possessed, and then we get the scene in the house where they're all the other four of them are sitting there talking about what's going on, what's going to happen. When she comes walking out with the shotgun, I'm like, oh, great. That was smart. Nobody secured the shotgun.
She
Good
found
work.
the shotty.
Good work for random morons. And she shoots past her brother and blows the window out or whatever, basically as a, come on in, demons. And then that scene was pretty cool. I did like the use of audio of Ellen Sandweiss from the original movie, dubbed in over her screaming. I thought that was a nice touch. There was a few times of audio work that I thought was really creepy, that was really effective. And then, of course, the door blows open. She screams and does the, you're all going to die here tonight, passes out. We got the what grossed Travis out the most moment. There's a few of them here, but
Guess.
But go ahead. I want to get guesses from everybody, starting with Dredd.
I mean, if it's around this scene, I would assume the pukey thing.
Okay, Faye, what do you think?
Blood puke.
The same. The puking of blood into the other girl's mouth.
Mm-hmm. Monica?
Man, why did I come up with the game and then like? Can I just say the same thing too? Because
you can, because that's the one.
Okay.
And specifically, and her, like, when she goes to grab the shotgun, and then you get Mia's hand grabs her and throws her back, climbs on top of her, and just unloads like a fire hose. That was awful. But
I mean, that's the point. It's Evil Dead.
The actress didn't want to do that scene because she felt so bad for the other actress.
Yeah. And I don't blame her. And you're right, Dredd. That is like the Evil Dead hallmark, right? Is that kind of thing.
Yeah, you need someone sprayed in blood. That's just how it goes.
That was bad. However, after she rolls and throws Mia down into the basement, they close the door and they lock it and all of that, and then they're sitting there, and then Dave says, and she says, I gave her enough sedatives to put a horse to sleep, which, I'm sorry, you're a registered nurse. No, you didn't. Because if you did that, you'd have killed her. But Dave's like, well, we need to give her more sedatives. We need to sedate her more. And it cuts to a shot of Olivia, and she has bits and chunks in her hair. And that was the part that was the worst for me. It was bad enough to have the fire hose, but that's just terrible. But then to have that aftermath, and I was like, oh, come on. I need, like, She needs to go take a shower for about a week straight, but not in that shower because it'll burn it. It'll singe all her hair off. But that was just gross. Which, then just led to yet more gross scenes, right? Because then she goes in the bathroom. And, okay. So, most horror movies that have a bathroom mirror are going to have the bathroom mirror gag of some sort. I liked this one.
Yep.
I really liked this one because, yes or no, a gag like that is coming. Something's going to happen with the mirror. They're either going to use the mirror or they're going to use the mirror to fake you out for a scare in a different direction, right? But something's happening with that mirror. I liked that the scare was her reflection in the mirror. It was nice.
Yeah. The foretelling.
Yeah. And then when she goes to leave the room, I'm thinking, oh, okay, all right, that was creepy, but something's going to happen here pretty soon. It happened a lot sooner than I thought it would. When she stops in the middle of the room like that.
That's so creepy.
It is.
Just the way she stops is just so, oh no.
Yeah, and that again is when you realize you're watching an Evil Dead movie and not just any old horror movie, because the Deadites now have control of her. And that was, it was very, very well done. We did have a runner-up for what grossed me out the most, though, and that was right after that when Eric goes to find her in the bathroom. Not the visual of it. The visual was terrible. Don't get me wrong. That was bad. And then when he steps back and there's the chunk of her cheek there that he slips on before he cracks his back on the toilet, falling. That was all terrible. It's the sound before that. When he's walking up and you're just hearing that squelching, squishy sound. And I'm just like, oh, I don't want to see her doing whatever it is she's doing, which I know is horrific and awful. And it's going to, no. Sound, for whatever reason,
There
gets
it
me more.
is.
But the sound in this movie is also just great.
Oh, yeah.
Like, just...
Yeah.
Then when she attacks Eric... Okay, this is some of Eric's comeuppance, right? Because he gets stabbed with a big piece of glass.
Oh, yeah.
And then he gets stabbed with a needle.
That's even worse.
And she's going at the glass. Thankfully, he paid for the extra, protective glasses, apparently. But it's bad enough that she's, stabbing down at his face towards his eye, which thankfully they didn't actually puncture his eye. That might have been too much for me.
No, just went into his cheek.
But it was bad enough that they had to show him pull a whole damn needle out of his cheek, right under his eye. Like that. Come on. Whew. That was... This movie...
Yeah.
This movie had some...
What is it with everybody pulling the objects out of their bodies and bleeding more?
Well, the nurse was dead, so she didn't know anymore. She wasn't there to tell him not to.
She couldn't help.
Which,
Anybody else?
Go ahead.
Her face, it was just like Halloween 3. Like, it had that same, open, thing. I was like, oh, I forgot about that. And it was like, correlation.
Yeah.
Halloween
that is a
meets
horrible
Joker.
look.
Kind of, yeah.
But at least after getting her head bashed in by him, the chunks that she had that Travis didn't like, they went away.
Well, they got mixed in.
There were different chunks.
They didn't go away. They just got mixed in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which, that was also pretty brutal, and not a shot that I was prepared to see. Was her lying there with, her head gone, basically, mashed into the floor by a chunk of porcelain.
I always thought they would do something.
She tried to kill me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always thought they would do something because they enter after it, so all they see is her head bashed in and the guy just sitting there. Like, they're gonna do? No, they're gonna believe him. That's fine. Okay.
Well, it wasn't like he was in unharmed shape either.
Yeah, that's true. He definitely also should have said something about the book a lot earlier than he did. He waits. Not only is he dumb enough to read out of it and cause all this to happen, but then he does the zombie movie thing of don't tell him you got bit. He doesn't tell them he read from the book. It takes forever before he finally admits that. I didn't.
I might have done something stupid. You don't say.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was so many of that. I did have my note on the electric knife was I'm not sure if that electric knife could cut through bone. Probably not.
No.
I don't even
Not
think
that
it can
easily.
cut through
No.
turkey bone, let alone a freaking human arm.
And it's like it's the friggin' God, I failed anatomy. The arm bone. The thick arm bone.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, whereas if you were gonna say like here, the two bones in here a little bit thinner,
Mm-hmm.
then you're friggin'
Usually you do that there, yeah.
Yeah, no, she
muscle.
was going through
Also-
the bone in the bicep there, and it went through it very quickly.
Exactly.
And then it kept hanging on for a little bit just to drop in the right time.
That I was not prepared for.
Oh,
nice-
I'm sorry.
Nice
I
juicy
saw that.
sound.
No, that I was not prepared for. I'm like, okay, we've had her cut her arm off. We got the low angle. We got the shot where you could tell somebody was sitting right below frame with the garden hose spraying all of the fake blood. But then when they come into the room and she turns around and the arm is hanging and drops, I was like, oh, okay, all right. Glad I wasn't eating at the time.
But I think the arm cutting thing was well done too, because I thought they were going to cut away from the arm when she does she puts it, and then usually they'll cut away and replace with fake arm. But no, they just went for it. Nice.
Yep, they definitely did.
Also, right before that, we got our special nods to the original with looking through the basement hatchy thing.
Yep.
Doing
yeah.
We're gonna get you.
Although they didn't have the sing-songy bit in the theatrical cut that was in the trailer.
Oh.
The director's cut has that. The theatrical cut does not. It's basically Mia just saying, "Don't cut it off," as we're watching.
Oh, that's so sad.
We're watching her.
Don't cut it off. Don't cut it off.
Yeah, as we're watching it, her hand like necrotize right in front of us. Well, yeah. In fact, my actual note was Jeebus didn't expect the arm to still be attached there. It really got me. And then the next scene where she comes at him with the nail gun, I'm like, all right, that's not how nail guns work, but sure, whatever. Like at this point,
I knew you were going to say that.
we had an electric knife that could cut through human arm bone, so why can't a nail gun just fire nails like a pistol? And again,
nail guns don't do that.
Damage to safety.
they don't do that without specific modifications. And Dave, of course,
Exactly.
gets hit in the leg, but Eric gets turned into a damn pincushion. And she shot herself in
His
the
arm.
face for some reason. I'm not sure why she had
She
nails
wanted
in
to
her
be
face,
Pinhead.
but, I liked, though, how that scene ended. Because she does all the shooting with the nail gun first. They knock her down. And then she just picks up the crowbar and starts beating on him with the crowbar. And that was... When she hit Dave, that was bad enough. But then when she goes after Eric and she hits him and like splits his hand.
The hand.
Oh.
Ow.
And Dave shoots her
That's why you
arm
don't
off.
Put your hand up, folks.
Yeah, not against a crowbar. Your hand ain't stopping a crowbar. I don't care if it's a 95-pound girl swinging it at you. That thing's gonna hurt. Especially when she's possessed by a demon. But then when her arm gets blown off and she turns around, and here I had my first note was, the classic Evil Dead fake out, because she turns around and she's back to her normal self. She doesn't have the dead-eyed eyes, and she's like, "Why are you hurting? Why are you hurting me?" And so it's like, aha, the classic deadite fake out. And then it wasn't. She just dies. And my next note was like, now they've used that fake out 3 times. Because like they use it again with Mia twice with her. Because they use it right after that when he goes to burn the house and he can't do it because he's hearing her sing the lullaby. And then when he decides that he's going to do the burial. And he puts a dress on her and puts the bag over her head and then does the burial. They try the fake out again. Which That scene
At
was
least
pretty.
he doesn't pay. He didn't fall for it.
No, he didn't. No, I'll give Dave. Dave was dumb, but I'll give him credit for that. By the end, he's like, you're not my sister anymore. I did read that while they had all the safety procedures in place, they really did bury her.
Yeah.
In that scene, to create a sense of urgency.
That's why. Yeah.
Well then.
Which kudos, I guess. As long as all the proper OSHA safety procedures are in place. Like, this isn't a Bill Friedkin movie, all right? We're not just driving down the street and potentially running people over.
Plus, it was pretty shallow anyways, so.
Yeah. But then this was another clever thing the movie did, which was his gambit of the defibrillator with the car battery.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was clever. He
worked
somehow
once before on her, so why not?
Well, yeah, and having that loophole of, oh no, if she dies, it ends things, but then I can bring her back to life. And I liked
that was one of the rules. If you buried them alive, it released them.
Yeah, it cleanses, purifies them, or something like that.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because burying them
Same
alive
with the fire
would
and
kill them.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that was clever. And then for it to, of course, the classic movie thing of it didn't work. Oh no, it did. And initially I'm thinking, yeah, sure it did, but she's still a deadite. She's gonna flip on him at some point, and then she didn't, and I was pleased with that. In the version that you watched, did David get possessed before the house exploded in fire?
Yes.
Okay, that's not in the theatrical.
Seconds before.
Yeah, in the theatrical they don't.
No, I have
that
the
shot.
unrated.
Which is why there was some question about the abomination thing coming out of the ground, because it was supposed to get 5 souls, and if his wasn't one of them, they only got 4. But I guess it kind of depends on if you count the girl at the beginning as one of them or not, or if you just I just assumed him getting killed in the house counted, and it was enough for it to start raining blood, and literally raining blood. That's where a lot of the blood, the 50,000 gallons of the 70,000 they used on this movie.
Yeah, I forgot to count that in there with the blood. Now that you say that, I'm only thinking of the regular.
Yeah,
that rain of blood that piles on the number a bit.
it does quite a
well.
And that drip was almost dead center in that necklace. That was awesome. Well positioned.
The drip there. Did you notice too the necklace when she picks it up off the ground? It's in that shape of a skull, like it was in the first movie.
Yep.
I liked that. When he brought her back to life, the initial reason that I thought, oh no, there's something still going to go on, is because I'm like, there's still 20 minutes of the movie left. So what's about to happen here? Yeah. Oh no, it's far worse. Because she's got to crawl through that tunnel again where the dog was. Get the chainsaw.
I don't know why you would do that.
I don't know.
That
either.
was just like
that was the
no
worst place to try and go. Gets the chainsaw. And then
gets sliced up by a machete.
Yeah, which okay. Was this when did the Raid Redemption come out? Any of you familiar with that movie? Because there's a similar Redemption. There's a similar scene in that movie where a guy is hiding in a wall and somebody takes a machete and is stabbing it into the wall repeatedly, trying to find them. Okay, the Raid Redemption was 2011, so I'm thinking that had to have been some sort of an influence on this moment in this movie. But yeah, that one was interesting too, because of like it's slow moving and then gets her in the leg.
Oh
and
yeah,
gets her in the arm before she finally breaks out of there. And I mean, the movie was already bad and gory enough as it was, but then we get chopping off legs with a chainsaw, arm crushed by a Jeep. And and then
Well,
ripping.
they had to do the big scene with the chainsaw going into the hand, just like from 2.
Yeah, so then for her to finally get the chainsaw by tearing her hand off under the Jeep, which I'm kind of with you. The way that Jeep was configured, it wouldn't have actually crushed her hand if it fell over on its side like that.
Oh, it probably would have crushed, but she should have still been able to get her hand out without it separating.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
It would have shattered the bones for certain.
Oh, she just has weak bones and weak hand tendons.
She didn't drink enough
stuff.
milk growing up, so she's got them weak bones. We get our one quip at the end when the abomination creature thing is crawling at her and says, "I'll swallow your soul" or whatever. And
no. I have a note on this, and it's a feast. We will feast on your soul. And then she looks at it, and then the one-liner is coming. It's coming, and she goes, "Feast on this, mother bleeper." But she completely messes it up. The way she says it is completely off. She just blurts it out instead of going like, "Feast on this."
She puts the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Well, I mean, she's not Ash.
Which happens a couple of times. It happens a couple of times in this movie where the dialogue just goes the way they say it. That's too fast, or they don't do the emphasis right. And it's like, so close, so close, so close.
But brutal kill of the abomination by shoving a chainsaw through its head.
That helped. That worked.
And the separation of the head and the blinking eyes.
Yeah, that was.
And then when
that was something.
And then they zoom out the shot, and then you see like the where she's, the corpse is like lying there, like weirdly. It's like rubbery in a way, which is probably was rubber, but still, it adds to the whole.
Yeah.
No.
And then it returns to the earth.
I did like it sinking back into the ground like that. That was a nice touch. I thought that the girl playing Mia, Jane Levy, I thought she was great. I really liked her performance, especially pre-possession when she's scared. The scared moments for her after the moment in the forest, before she pulls the shotgun on the room full of them, that moment with her and her brother in the bedroom was in the trailers, but it was really, really good in the movie. And I quite liked that. I mean, the performances weren't terrible. The dialogue just didn't do him any favors. It was rough dialogue to work with. I thought that Eric, as a performance, I mean, he played kind of the pissed off, douchey sort of, friend, but pissed at his friend pretty well. I liked that.
Well, I mean, tired of dealing with the drug addicts, drug addiction.
Yeah. I mean, David was just boring. He didn't really bring much. I think it was my biggest issue with him. But I think overall, I mean, other performances were fine. Again, it's a horror movie. I'm not looking for necessarily, Academy Award nominations for the acting in it. Nor am I expecting that. But I think that they did pretty well with the material they were given to act with. As far as the physicality of everything was great. And I think the visuals of it, mixed with that sound mixing, that sound design, was just...
The sound and camera work was, Because there was one scene that I don't remember exactly which scene it was, but it's like when things are starting to go sideways, the camera goes sideways because you're looking at them and then the camera just goes like this.
Actually,
I love that shot.
One of my notes was in the aftermath when she crashes the car. She drives that car, swerves to miss the demon, crashes it into that little pond lake thing. We cut to black and come back. What I loved about that was they were using a lot of those tilts and weird angles and depth of focus stuff while she's going through that little swampy area and all that. And my thought was, this makes perfect sense. She's almost certainly has a concussion.
Yeah,
Has
disoriented.
has adrenaline just coursing through her body at that point. So she's incredibly disoriented, and the camera work made me feel disoriented in that scene. I really liked that. I liked the way that was done. Mixed with the sound design on this was just unreal how good it was. I really, really appreciated that, even when it was gross sounds of squishy stuff. that yeah, blah, blah. But yeah, like I said, it's a very visceral movie. I think as a reimagining remake, it's one of the better ones I've seen. It's certainly better than the movie we don't talk about and the Friday the 13th remake.
I would say I agree with that, because the Friday the 13th one is such a neutral thing for me. It's like you didn't really go ahead, you didn't go over the top to try to do something different, and you didn't, like you stayed in the middle of the road, and that was, maybe almost worse.
That's the thing. The Friday the 13th one played it too safe, and it was boring.
This one,
and
jugular.
At least it makes sense that an Evil Dead remake is just going to say, you know what, we need a tanker truck full of fake blood for this. Just back it up, leave it here, leave the keys. We'll bring it back at the when we're done shooting. And they went for it. I appreciate that. I appreciate having Raimi, Campbell, and Tappert help produce it, so they could kind of find a director that they liked. I think helped. Not trying to make it funny, I think was also smart. I think not really trying to go for what the feel of the original movie was trying to be. I think was the right way to go about it. There were a couple the things that I liked, like the whole drug addiction part of it. Again, I think you could have made more out of that, but really once you get the Book of the Dead, that's the whole focus of the movie.
I was thinking when they get rid of the drugs by just pouring it into the water well, I was hoping that was their actual water that they had to use to drink, and then they just went on a trip all together.
Yeah, that's actually what happened. But, they just all got super high. But I like that. However, I will say I like the way the original movie doesn't have a singular entity that the book talks about. Because that was one of the things in this I noticed, is there was mentions of, he is coming, or that one demon in the book. And for me, what I like about Evil Dead is the fact that it isn't a Jason or a Freddy or a Michael. It's not a singular entity. It's not a single demon. It's not Valak or anything like that. It's just this random evil, that presence that is sort of, it's a collective. It's like it's a singular, but it's also a plural at the same time. And I liked that about the original movies, that this one kind of tried to make into like the book is about summoning a specific singular thing. That's just a nitpick on my part. I don't know if any of you even really noticed that or really thought about it at all. But that was something I thought about at the end. It's like, I would have kept it as just sort of evil, this amorphous evil.
Yeah, that is weird.
Because I think that's a strength of those first three movies. Because even in, Army of Darkness, which isn't horror so much as it is just kind of action-y thing, they have an evil entity in that, but it's a part of Ash, born out of the Deadites. But the Deadites themselves are just sort of there always, and I like that better. That's just me. So, okay, here's a question then.
Bad. I'm the one with the gun.
Exactly. Upon seeing this again, Monica, what did it change your view of the film significantly? Not at all? Make it worse? What do you think of it? Take out the one scene, because we know that one's bad. But just overall, like sitting down to watch it again, do you think your feelings on the movie changed at all?
I mean, it's never gonna move from where it is when we put it in the rankings. It was at the bottom because it is. I mean, even Evil Dead rises above it. You like that? Yeah, I actually liked Evil Dead Rise, so tell me what that means. But I definitely appreciated it. I saw the things in it that everybody goes crazy for because you hear Scott say that this is such a great remake and all that kind of stuff. I see what's good about it. Am I going to rewatch it anytime soon? No, probably not. But I understand that it is, it's a good movie and stuff. It's just, they're so annoying. They're just so annoying. I can't help it. I want to punch Eric in the face and and David too. Why not?
Yeah, I mean they're both idiots, and
it's worth watching. And the gratuitousness is very nice. I do appreciate the gore,
which completely held up. I mean, it's not that long ago, but still,
10 years.
10 years, which is
so good.
Crazy.
It's practical effects. It's not crappy CG.
Yeah, they didn't do a lot of CG in it. That was something that Alvarez wanted to do, was try to do it practical because the first movie was. Yeah, okay. Faye, how about you? You like this one. I think you ranked it higher. Oh, yeah. Although, the thing with the ranking of the Evil Dead movies is, like, this is a franchise that really doesn't have a bad entry. I mean, they don't have as many entries as, other series, but there isn't a bad one in the bunch either. Like, if this is your worst, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah. It's basically like, what's your least favorite, right? It's
like I know when I ranked them, this sat at the bottom of my list because I hadn't seen it. It's probably not going to move up, not because I didn't enjoy it, because I did. I think it was very well made. I thought it was pretty good, and certainly as a remake / sequel goes, it was very, very good. But I grew up with those first three movies, especially Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, and it's hard for me. There's a nostalgia factor for me that I can't. It's hard. It would be hard to make something that goes above that. It's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with having movies not be as good as what you had growing up, but I do think this is very well done. Like, if you were going to compare in terms of just straight filmmaking, this is superior filmmaking to what Raimi and them did in terms of technical, like, acumen. The end result looks better, but they also had more money and they had a lot more experience, and they weren't literally in a cabin in the middle of the woods in Tennessee with and living there while they were shooting it. So it's very different. But I just really I thought they did such a good job trying to capture the feel of what Raimi initially wanted Evil Dead to be back in 1981. Not what it became, but what he wanted it to be. And I'm curious to see, because I still haven't seen Evil Dead Rise, but now that I've seen this, I will watch that. I'm very curious to see what they do as far as continuing on, how much of it, how much of the DNA feels like it came from this movie versus something that's a little more standalone. But I do think that this is a good movie. It's certainly a better horror movie than a lot that I've seen. In terms of, like, remakes and sequels, like, you could do a lot worse. It's not the first movie, and it never will be the first movie for me, but it's still good. I do have a couple of clips I'd like to play. There wasn't a lot. There wasn't a ton to clip in this movie because it's a lot of just gross sounds and screaming. Is typically what you were hearing. But I did get 2 clips of Eric. So Monica, you'll love these because it's your favorite guy. And it was basically back to backs from the same scene. It's not him reading or anything like that. It's his confession to Dave, as Dave is sitting there putting duct tape over his wound, to hold it in place because that duct tape ain't gonna stick to anything. I'm sorry, not with that much blood. But I got this.
I read a passage from that book, and it was some sort of prayer.
It's like that should have been your first thing was I'm reading a prayer out of this book. Not a great idea. But then he follows it up with,
I released something evil.
Yep, you unleashed something evil. It's all your fault, Eric. You could have just left the book.
100%.
Silly bastard.
Just leave the book. Leave it alone. So I mentioned how there were bits and pieces of audio that they pulled from the first movie and put them in here. And I didn't capture any of those. But there was Ellen Sandveiss from the first movie over Mia's screaming. And there was also, like, when they first get to the house, you hear some, like, join us, that kind of stuff. But I did capture this one because when I was listening to the movie and I didn't catch this. And then when I recorded something and I played it back, I heard this voice. And I'm not going to lie. Initially, I was like, wait a minute, did that actually play in the movie? And I played the clip in the movie again. I'm like, okay, no, it did. Good. I'm not, my computer is not possessed. But it was this voice. I don't remember exactly the context of it. I think it's when they first go down in the basement and you hear. And it's hard to hear it exactly, but you're hearing the flies buzzing around and all that, and you just hear this voice in the background echoing around. And I was like, oh, that's creepy. And then I did also capture, last one was this one.
You are all going to die tonight.
Because that was just, that was good. I like that.
You're all going to die tonight.
It's still not the best thing like that. That still goes to Resident Evil.
No,
We're all going to die down here.
That one was good.
Well, that was Red Queen.
I mean, also very much appreciated in the end, over the end credits, they had the tape recording from the first movie.
Yep.
I really liked that. That was a cool little note. So, I think, like I say, I think overall, a very interesting movie, a very well-made remake. I mean, typically remakes, you worry that it's just a cash grab. So this wasn't necessarily that. This was somebody actually had an idea of how they wanted to redo the tone and feel of a movie. So I did a couple of little bits of trivia. Jane Levy, who played Mia, is a natural blonde. She dyed her hair for this movie.
Or was she blonde and it's just dried up blood?
Could be.
Could be.
I thought this one, this little bit of trivia, I just had to mention this because it made me laugh. If you take the first letters of the main characters' names, David, Eric, Mia, Olivia, and Natalie, the letters spell out demon. So.
You think they did that on purpose?
I don't know. So yeah, that is Evil Dead 2013, not the Evil Dead. That's from 1981. This is just Evil Dead. If you can handle gore, this is worth watching.
Gore.
That is not Gore the podcast, but Gore the
also
the
worth
stuff.
watching.
Gore the podcast is worth listening to no matter what. But the gore in this, it is a lot. Okay, if you are squeamish, just don't. All right, because I didn't even mention the box cutter and bifurcating her own tongue on the box cutter.
Oh
yeah,
that looks so good.
Okay, no. The
visuals in this are incredibly well done, but boy, don't eat anything while you're watching it. And if you are at all squeamish, just don't watch it, okay? Like, there's lots of people I know that I will just be like, look, no, just don't do it. But if you can handle that, I think it's worth watching. I think it's really good. I maybe have a higher opinion of it than Monica does, but I also understand. I understand the reasoning behind that. And yes, they are dumb. It's a horror movie. The kids are going to be dumb.
Yeah. I like to keep prefacing
stupid things.
like there's we use the shorthand of saying a movie is good or bad when we mean that we like it or we don't like it. And like sometimes, that's why I try to like explain, like, I'm not saying it's a bad movie, but it's just, because sometimes it is a bad movie, but you like it anyway. And sometimes,
but we
combination of things.
We also know that like when we're watching a horror movie, there's going to be dumb stuff happening because people are dumb in horror movies, and they've very rarely ever seen horror movies when they're inside of one, unless they're making self-referential statements that they have seen a lot of horror movies. Just
like
saying.
newer
Scream.
That is going to put a big bloody bow on Spooktober for this year.
No,
we have done it.
That's it.
We have spent the last 5 episodes, the 4 of us, talking about horror movies. Again. But here's the cool thing, folks. If you listen to this show and you like this conversation, you should listen to the other show that the 4 of us do called GORE. You probably do already, but in case you don't, Monica, let people know about the show and where they can find it.
Yes, we do a horror podcast called GORE. You can check out our website at gorepodcast.com, where you can check out the show and find the links to all of our social media stuffs. You can follow us on Twitter and Blue Sky at GORE Podcast. Am I forgetting anything? What did we just release?
Oh, yes.
We just released our Halloween episode entitled Halloween 3 or Tom Atkins' Yummy Booty.
Yes.
Self-explanatory.
If you've seen the movie, you know exactly what we're talking about. GORE Podcast is a show that comes out twice a month. The 4 of us talk about it. We break down a movie. We run it through our 13 list of horror tropes and fun things from movies. It's always great. We also talk about upcoming movies, books, games in the horror genre. It's a great show.
Horror.
Yep. gorepodcast.com. You can find that. And as you said, at GORE Podcast on either the Twitter or Blue Sky. So that's always a whole lot of fun. Monica, where can people find just you if they want to follow you on a social media or whatever you're doing?
Just me? Why would they want to do that?
I don't know.
But if you do, you can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky and Twitch at WickedKitten13.
Excellent. Faye, how about you?
On Twitter at ChibiFaylin.
And Dread?
Well, just head on to the dreadzone.com for all my linkages, but mostly follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv /the_dreadlord.
Which you'll probably be getting back into some gaming once you get home, right?
Yes, because there's a tiny game that came out, and I have to wait till I get home to play it, but there will be some Alan Wake 2 in the near future.
Can't wait.
Because I've heard a lot of good stuff about that.
I want to play.
I want to play, and I have to upgrade my computer to play. So
no.
I'm sad. My graphics card can't handle the low basic requirement settings.
Oh my.
Yeah.
What are their minimum thingies at?
2060. I have a 1660.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Time to upgrade anyways.
Yeah. thedreadzone.com is where you can find Dread. You can find this show Sunday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, twitch.tv/TV's Travis for a live stream. Hang out in the chat room like Squatch and Ace and Nisbet. If you listen to it as a podcast, you can get that anywhere you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Comes out on Wednesdays in the morning. Video version on YouTube, audio version on all the podcatchers. If you're a patron, you can get that early. You can get it a few days early. You can become a patron of the show for as little as $1 an episode by going to patreon.com/WYHS. You can also go to my website, tvstravis.com, find all the links to everything, whether it be the YouTube, podcasting, whatever it is, right there. And next week I have a old friend of mine coming back. He hasn't been on the show before, but he's somebody that I used to talk to a lot about movies, and I've been trying to get him on here since the beginning. It'll be great. His name's Paul Botticelli, and it'll be super fun to talk to him again. It's been a few years since I've spoken to him. We've chatted online, but it'll be nice to actually talk with him. And then in 2 weeks, I have somebody coming on the show that has never seen Avengers Endgame. I'm not sure how, like they didn't accidentally see them.
He got snapped in half, probably.
Must have been, because they saw Infinity War. Didn't see Endgame.
Yeah.
Oh,
Didn't survive
okay.
the snap.
Wow. Okay. Now
So-
I feel like how.
It's going to be interesting. So that's coming up. So yeah, come on back for that. The show's going to keep on going. But thank you guys for being here. I love doing these October episodes. These are a ton of fun, and definitely check out GORE Podcast because we have a lot of fun doing that one too. So thank the three of you for being here. Thank you, listeners in the live chat room and the podcast, for hanging out with us. And come back next week when I talk with my friend Paul about some movie he's never seen before. It's a surprise, so you'll just have to wait until then for that.
It's a surprise. I've never seen that.
Until then, remember to enjoy your movies and be excellent to each other.